Hi, everybody, and welcome to our second episode of the Over Budget podcast. It is the podcast for ERP project management. Today, we are launching the next episode of our brand new podcast series, in which we talk about all around ERP project management with all the challenges and opportunities, especially with regard to bigger, complex, maybe international projects. Before I introduce today my amazing co-host, let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Frank Meyer. I've been working at the BC sector. Many people say too long, but I'm working since more than 25 years in that area. Before it was named NEV or Navision, I think many of you know that already. I started as a developer. The first years after that, I was a consultant. And I would say before 15 years or so, I changed to be a project manager. In parallel, I founded a company, so I was a company leader also since 25 years. And it was not too much for me. I'm already a founder for Directions EMEA, which is now in the 19th year. It is one of the biggest events around Business Central worldwide. Why I'm able to talk a little bit about project management. I have led not that many projects, maybe 20, 30 or something like that, but all of them were really, really big. The biggest one was more than 20,000 users over several hundred databases in, 25 plus countries. So, before 1 year, I started a new company. It is named Dynamics Global Project. There we now help Microsoft partners and their customers successfully to implement complex international ERP rollouts. But that's a lot around myself. So let's now introduce Klaus Felder. I'm very happy that he is now part of this podcast and he will be my co-host today. Klaus and I, we know us since 10, 12 years. He was IT manager at the customer side from us, and now he's an independent. Yeah, we work since then very close together. It's for me a really big honor to have him here. I'm sure he brings a particular value perspective from our customer side and will bring in a lot of insights from that side. But maybe, Klaus, you introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Frank. Yes, I am Klaus Felder. I have about 25 years of experience leading IT and business transformation projects in the US, in the UK, in Germany, and other places in Scandinavia. My experience is mainly on the customer side. And I have a lot of experience from that perspective, doing a number of different ERP implementations, and most recently several BC project implementations in various countries.
It sounds like you have a lot of experience. As I said, I know you since many, a huge experience. So we want to talk today about the topic assessment for bigger projects, bigger international projects, bigger projects which have maybe some sites. Why are we want to talk about that? It is quite simple. We think projects like that, if they reach a size, let's say maybe more than 100, 150 users at one site, or many sites which you have to support, the projects gets more difficult than the other projects. You have to do ways more. You have to create maybe a template, meaning you start creating a product. And the whole project setup is a little bit more difficult. Klaus, I want to ask you the question. do you wake up one morning and thought, I want to make an IT assessment for international projects, or how does it came to that idea?
That's a good question, and we can talk about that for half an hour because it's a very full question with a lot of different aspects to it. I think in my experience, many ERP projects, they go over budget, they run late, they struggle with adoption. There's a number of things that can complicate an ERP project. And then the years of experience that I have and the battle scars that I have from global rollouts, it really has shown me a number of times that we could benefit from an independent check, right? And an assessment of the project. How are we doing? Why are we struggling in a certain area? And would there be an opportunity for us to do a reset on certain parts of the project to get it back on track? So I can certainly see the strong benefit, especially for an international project, of doing an IT assessment.
Yeah, that's completely right. And maybe I can say also a little bit about that. I think we both have seen that many of the bigger projects fails. And these projects fails way more often than the smaller ones.
Right.
Yeah, it is. You said it. You have got the battle scars, and I remember when somebody said to me, "Please be the project manager of your first big project," I thought, "Oh, the water is not cold. There is no water. It's ice, and I have to dig my hole and stand in because it was really difficult for me at the beginning, and I had seen at the very, very first day that these projects are completely different than other projects. I think you had experienced the same, Klaus. Or?
Yeah, right. That's right. My experience was not just with this particular project, but also from a number of other projects. Right. What we often see is that executives and project sponsors, they often don't fully grasp the scope and the risk and the hidden complexities of an ERP transformation project, an ERP implementation. And that kind of lack of leadership buy-in can leave team with constraints on budgets. The budgets are squeezed and maybe also under-resourced. And certainly in my experience from regulated industries, compliance and validation adds a significant effort and cost if not recognized up front.
Yeah. I had the same experience. I have some additional comments why I think these projects are really a little bit a little bit different than other ones. They are way bigger. I can remember I have done, and I do some advertising. I made a really big project for BMW with many thousand users. We had a team, a really base team of 40-50 people. It's like a football team. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger. And any of these team members you had to talk to. They made meetings like hell. You have to follow the meetings and you have to make sure everybody is walking in the right direction. And. It's not only the number of team, it's the number of tasks are way more. We had in average, we always had, until nearby the last 2 weeks, we had 150 CRs open, which you have to develop, all in average. And all these things were different. You had many sites with, I always said to each and everybody, these are unique kingdoms. Which will be ruled completely different, and I found out very fast that this is a completely different world. For example, in the projects before, I spent 60-70% of my time in doing consulting for the customer.
Right.
In these projects, I spent 150% of my time only doing project management.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
I think
there's
Yep.
one more thing actually that I see often, not just from regulated industries, but it's often something that the project suffers from, and certainly also something that an assessment could help highlight and come with recommendations for, and it is the fact that oftentimes the customer's best people, for a project like a BC project, they are also the best people for the daily operation, right?
Yes.
And in a regulated industry, it may be people, involved with testing and validation and things like that, that are also involved with audit activity, which you can't really compete against, right? And then also new product launches and so on. So there is often a clash between those elements of project and daily business, kind of fighting for the same best resource.
Yeah. You're completely right. And from the partner side, it goes in the same directions. You have your top performer in your company, and if they are picked in a project, in a really big international project, you have them not available for other projects, and that's also a big issue in the other projects. But there comes there I want to ask you the next question. You as a customer, have you ever got a sales pitch presentation where these project risks are stated out?
No.
Yes.
And that may not be completely fair, but is typically as the end customer, what I often see is that the sales deck, the sales pitch, the sales demonstrations are so focused on the deal, the project, and
Yes.
And only later on, typically, is when some of these risks will be surfacing, right? And they're not typically built in as assumptions for a successful project. For us to be successful in this project, we need A, B, C, D, E. Not typically involved in a sales deck, and maybe they should be.
Yeah, I think so. That is one point where we said we want to offer this assessment at several starting points, and one starting point could be when you be the first time at the customer side, that you can state out some of these risks or things what you have to consider. Let's say it in that way. Yeah.
I think you're right, Frank. An early advisory or assessment could help set a more realistic scope, timeline, budget, and then also help educate the executives on some of the more complex topics as data migration and integration and things like that. So you don't do it later on, right? That in my experiences, where you sometimes get into the experience that some executives have about IT projects always taking longer and always more expensive. You run into scope creep and so on. If you can address all of these things up front, I think would be a win for all parties.
That's absolutely right. I fully agree. But from partner side, I see one drawback. The project will from the beginning on be more expensive. But honest,
That's the risk, of course. Yes.
That's a risk if you go in with this and say yes, we have there a deeper methodology. It makes it more expensive, but from my experience, what I have learned now, and I was now project manager for I don't know 20, 30 projects, which really had a bigger size. The customer normally consider that if you are way more professional here and that way, normally, and I say normally, the money is not the biggest issues in projects like that. Or do you see that different?
No, I agree. If you could help educate the customer on the value of the project, it's an easier conversation to have up front and later on. Later on, in my experience, especially also coming from not only regulated industries but also publicly traded companies, that money is maybe available, but they are budgets, and budgets you have to stick to. And if you go above the budget, you have to, within the internal organization at the customer side, go through a reapproval of the scope of the project and the project cost, etc. If we could do all of these things up front, it would be an easier conversation. And maybe an idea could be, and it's a good job I don't put together the sales decks, but a good idea could be to present a customer maybe with different options. Here's your, your budget with this scope, and with none of these other things considered, it could be, best case scenario, this cost. And then maybe present two other options where you start to introduce some of the additional assessments or risks involved, additional time set aside for data migration and so on. So the customer can choose, right? And you can engage in a dialogue about, what are the differences between the three different options, for example.
Okay. Yeah. That is also my experience. It is not the money. It is, I think normally if a bigger company starts a project like that to have all sides with the same processes, they follow a strategy for their company. They want to reach a strategy target, and that is for the most company the most important, that after that project they have reached that target what they had in mind. And normally it's not saving money, it is maybe under very end it is saving money, but it's normally having always the same processes, getting from all sides the same figures and something like that. And I think also, therefore, it is a good starting point to show there at that point as a partner, your customer, that you have experience in that and that you're aware about that. So a completely other question. We said many of these projects fail. At which point do you see the most dangerous moment in projects like that? Is it the pilot phase, or is it the rollout phase, or where do you think we're starting the problem in a project like that?
I think what we just spoke about actually starts in the beginning, right? If you're starting out with a project that doesn't have a realistic scope and accommodates for the risk involved with this project and the resources required and the details of the data migration and so on. So it starts early, right? But if you have already started, I think it's when the rubber hits the road, right? Where when the project starts, the partner gets involved, and you start setting up the environment, and you're defining the change requests, and, and you're well underway. I think somewhere in the middle of the project is where you're realizing, oh, wait a minute, I'm running out of runway here on time. I'm running out of runway here on resource. I'm running out of runway here on budget, maybe, right? And so middle of the project, in my experience, is where some of these things will come out from under the rocks, right? The things that you didn't address in the beginning start to surface.
Absolutely. I more than 1000% agree on that. I think I have the same experience. And funny wise, what I have seen, and I was also called quite often to project to help and save the project, and it was not in the pilot phase. It was after the pilot phase when you start the mass rollout. If maybe roll out 2-3 subsidiaries in parallel, you just find out that you have not enough resources, as you said. You may find out that you have spent your complete budget. You may find out that the template you have developed will not fit to the requirements, and. Normally, that is very interesting, and that's different than other projects. You will not fail in the project phase. Normally not. You will fail after the project phase. We stepped in before some months also in a project like that, where they already had the pilot and anything was fine. But after the pilot, they started now we have to roll out 3 sites in parallel, and they had not the resources and not the money, and right. The timing was completely wrong planned, and also that is a point where I say, if you have done it right from the beginning, and from the beginning, I think we have 2 starting points. One starting point is at the beginning of the negotiation, first talks with customer. That's one starting point, and the second starting point could be if already a partner had won the project and said, okay, I want to make it professional, an assessment or a check if you do all right, what has to be done in the project in that way, would be a really good spot to do that.
Yes. And then I think also what's important is, because some of the examples that you are raising points to the fact that maybe the project governance isn't strong, right? There shouldn't be a point where you're reaching all the way to after the pilot, and then you're figuring out all of these things. The project governance has to be strong, right? And there has to be points in the early parts of the project to ensure that you don't run into any surprises, but if you do, that you address it early.
Yeah, that's right. A completely other question, but it belongs to the questions before. When you enter a burning project, what is the first thing you check? The scope, the budget?
I run away.
You run away? Okay.
Seriously, obviously when we enter into a burning project, it's because there is a very serious situation, and we have to look at not only the project, the scope, and the budget. We also need to take a temperature check on the project team. Oftentimes the project team isn't working well together, and there are problems in various pieces there. Can they actually work together? Are there silos within the project that block that collaboration, right? Because oftentimes when you're faced with a project, you can work through the problem together in a project, right?
Yeah.
If you have a well-functioning team, all the stakeholders aligned around the importance of the project. What we also see often, back to a point I was raising earlier, the project has a life, but so does the company. And we have seen often that, people get pulled out of the project because there is there's a burning situation in the daily operation that needs to be dealt with. And that too can cause a burning project, right? So you have to take a look at what went only what went wrong with the project, why we over budget, but also the mechanics of that team, and making sure that we are aligned. So you have to assess all of the different aspects of where we are in the project, what went wrong, and then come together with some very clear recommendations on how do we get this back on track.
You're completely right. I was asked, I think at least 10 times in my career to step in a really big burning project, and what I've done at first is I talked to each and every stakeholder and wanted to find out if we can bring them together. If this works, I normally check out if they have a good coffee machine. It is really important. If the coffee machine is not good, I have to reject. But it's sorry.
There's one more thing actually that you also need to assess as you're coming into a burning project, and that is, especially for some of the complex projects that may run a little bit long, there can be project fatigue. The organization is just tired, and they are flat, they are out of energy, and you somehow have to re-energize the team around the project to get us back on track. You were talking about the football team analogy, right? Sometimes having a halftime break, helps. And you can have a little bit of a team talk, and you can reorganize things, and maybe you need a couple of new players with fresh a fresh mind and good strong legs on the pitch in the second half, right?
That's right. I normally also try to create very, very fast, quick wins at the beginning, so that all the team members normally, when a project fails, the mood is down, nobody wants to work any longer in the project, and you have to be the person who bring in some new hope, and so some quick wins will help there, and maybe you can reach some commitments from all parties quite soon. Quite often it is in that way that they say, we want this project, but we have that and that. And if you talk with each party separately, you quite often find just with talking a solution for some problems which nobody had spoken about in a project before. So I think that is also quite possible. There, the next question nearby comes automatically. Is project management in projects like that more psychology than technology, or what do you think?
I need to think about that question. Can you restate the question or repeat the question?
Yes. we have learned now that that you have to talk with the people. Maybe you find a quick win or something like that. I think the project manager skills. There's the question: does a project manager needs more technology skills or more psychology skills in a project like that?
Yeah, it depends on what and that's why I asked you to repeat the question, because I needed time to think. Because I think the project manager needs several skills that can be applied at the right time. I think it is really important that the project manager is emotionally intelligent and can work with the team, the stakeholders, and can communicate effectively, and then also manage the tasks successfully on the project. They don't need to be technical as such. I think it's more of a science to be a project manager, and I do think that it's one of the most difficult aspects of a BC project, being a project manager. But it's clearly the most important role to keep the project moving and keep the team going, to address some of the things that you talked about the team, maybe being demotivated and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just crack the whip if there are personality issues or character problems in the project. You have to be sensitive.
I can not more agree on that. I think you have to be a little bit of psychologist, and maybe it is good if you have a good technology-wise understanding of the surroundings and the project. But I think it's also very, very important that you have a good mood and bring in a good feeling and are self-confident and something like that, and say, okay, this will work. And here I want to add in some advertising for our assessment, because with our assessment, what we are doing there, we talked now a little bit about it. We have created a bunch of documents and a huge list of hundreds of questions where we ask about the project status, because we have created that with our very, very, very long experience. And it was not only me and Klaus, it was some other people have helped, that we were able to create there a huge list of questions. And with our experience, we normally step in a project at the points I mentioned before, that we at that point and we ask this question and try to find a solution. For example, we ask, do you use the same persons for template development and rollout team? What I think it should not be, and something like that. That's only one question. Or we ask, what is the timeline? Do you want to roll out some sites in parallel? What we don't recommend, because you need then a huge amount of resources, and many of these questions we are asking in that assessment, and that's paired with our experience. I think after that, and we tested it now on several prospects before. With our experience, we can bring a good starting point, or we can rearrange a project at one time. But that brings me to the next question. Was you ever part of a project where you thought, no, this will not work, not in this world, not in this life? Have you ever seen a situation like that?
I'm not one to give up. So even if I had, I wouldn't admit it.
Yeah.
No, I think everything is, from a project implementation perspective, possible to save. I don't think we need to call in the priest, although it may feel close in some cases. I think most projects can be saved if the leadership is willing to make the tough decisions and align the team. That's where we come in and help highlight some of these areas that can be addressed with our recommendations following the very detailed assessment that you just spoke about. And sometimes you do walk into a situation where you have to realize that the foundations are just so weak that it's better to not scratch the project, but to stop, regroup, and restart with a clearer plan. That is the most I think difficult situation I have been in. I've not scratched projects, but we'd had to realize that we need to start over.
Yeah. That's also I had the same experience. I remember one situation. It was so worse that people were not able to work together, and I said then to the leaders of the company, I said we have two options: we change the persons or we stop the project. And I also said if we do not change the projects, I will not be there as a project manager. So yes, sometimes it's a funny question, but normally you can rearrange each and every project in I would say 95%. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think this is also where our experience comes in, and you were talking about what we offer with the assessment. We are very experienced. We have been through a number of situations with international projects, and those projects, they add culture, language differences, time zone challenges. And we have been in those situations, and we have accommodated the needs of all. I listened to a podcast this weekend, and the host was saying something that I thought was really relevant to this conversation. He was saying, "Smooth seas do not make skilled sailors." And for me, I have sailed through enough rough seas, and can now share in those lessons, so others can avoid making some of the same mistakes that I did.
Yeah, I had sailed in seas where I not nude in the morning if I still have a boat. So it was sometimes really really difficult. But another question: if if our assessment could speak, what would it say to a struggling project manager?
I think the assessment would say to the project manager that they are not alone, right? The problems that you are facing are common. It's not unique. And with the right structure and alignment, we can get back on track. So now let's go to work.
Yeah. I thought about the question too. And my answer would quite simple, 2 words: use me.
Yeah.
I help you. So that is and as that is also something, and that is really now also a little bit more serious. I often came in situations where somebody hired me and said, "Hey, this guy will help you." And the concerns, there were many concerns from some parties. The problem there, and I've seen that now also, we have I run now a Dynamics Global project since more than 1 year. So I have also talked to some partners, and I had seen quite often the situation that the CEO came to me and said, "Frank, I know you since ever. Good idea. We have some struggling projects. Would you step in and rearrange that project with the teams?" So we want to use the teams and all the people. And when I talked with the people, they came to me and said, "Yeah, we don't have any problem. We have nothing. All is going well." Then I went back to the CEO, and the CEO said, "Okay. Why I have to discount then each and every month these projects? Why I have to pay back that amount and that amount and that amount? Do they work quite well?" No, and that is a big issue. What I think, what a big misunderstanding. We don't want to take over these projects. We help. We help with our experience. We help that the project teams from another partner can do that projects afterwards ways more professional and ways better. So that is something. Therefore, I said my first 2 words with "use me." I will help you, and nothing else. So that is to say that. But I think we talked now a lot and a long time. It's unbelievable how fast this time is going when you're talking in a podcast. I want to give you a quick recap about that. So I think a big international project, it is very good when you start at the early beginning to think that this is a big international project and handle it like that. If you, at latest, you should think and act in that way when the project starts, and not adding there a project manager who is normally in his normal life consultant. No, you should add here a really good project manager. The next point, when a project is crashed, try to find a point where you can discuss with each and everybody, and maybe you can call us and we can step in. And in addition, if you want to have a team has a lot of skills, ask us that we train that team for you. That could be also a very good starting point, so that they learn what we know since ages. I just want to mention here, if you are a Microsoft partner and you want to make international projects very professional, check our assessment. Okay, yes, we'll earn money with that, yes, but we have a lot of experience. So I would say if you learn golf, you also hire a golf trainer, and do not start without doing just practicing. You normally will very early will hire somebody who has experience, and I only can recommend that. So Klaus, we are nearby at the end. Some comments from you?
Yeah, I think your point around some of the internal reluctance to accept an assessment was very important. You know, as a customer, I have been that person, right? That didn't want to accept help. and it may be difficult to accept that you are stuck. It may be difficult to accept that you need external help, but I think actually it's a sign of strength to acknowledge that you cannot do this by yourself and that you need assistance. And I have done that several times, not as often as I would or should have done. But every time that I have brought in external assistance to help the project get stronger, it has done just that. And I think that was a very important point that you were making there, Frank. I think providing independent validation of your project through these assumptions is critical, and making sure that you bring leadership, visibility into the project, into the scope, risks and budget needs up front, or wherever in the project that we may come in to perform this assessment. The leadership is key to the success of the project. And securing that leadership buy-in is essential.
Yeah,
That's really, as both a consultant and a former customer, the most important recommendation.
So I think yes, we are at the end now of our podcast, and maybe you have noticed it. We have ton of experience, and we will share it in the next episodes. This was a little bit more on the advertisement side, but I can promise the next episodes you will get more insights and less advertisement. So we will talk one of the next episodes about why is a big project like international project with many sites more like creating a product than a project. You have may heard the first episode where we talked about that the project manager or the skill sets about from a project manager. So thank you for staying with us until this point. We really hope you like this episode. Feel free to give us some feedback. You can do it either directly in the comment section of this podcast or sending us an email. You will find the respective email address in the info box of this episode. Last but not least, we really would appreciate it if you could give us a positive review on Spotify or whatever platform you're listening to this podcast. We hope to welcome you in our next episode of the Over Budget podcast. See you by then. Bye bye.